accurate.
Okay, we're all set.
Okay. I will make a motion to open the Groveland Conservation Commission meeting Wednesday, December 13th at 7:05 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
You,
Second?
you're gonna be seconding it tonight?
I am, whenever I'm here, I'm second man.
Do you want to pass that down to Fred? And just let him know.
There you go. How come he gets a color hat?
Because it was mine,
I'm just joking. You wanna share mine?
all the hearings at 7:30?
Yep.
Okay.
You can share mine with Reed, and then
Right.
we'll get, that's hers, that's the only one she has, I think. So,
Let's see, 5,
We'll
6,
share.
8. Most of those things are just comments that I've got.
Okay,
Um,
so we're going to move right to number 7.
I get, might as well.
Okay. Is everybody here from 12 Juniper Terrace? Yes? Okay?
This doesn't need to be addressed at 7:30?
No, this is
Okay.
not a hearing.
Okay,
This is
thank
just
you.
an agenda item.
Yeah,
So
discussion.
I guess we're looking to open a discussion on that. I'm assuming you're Paul?
Yes.
Hi, Paul. Do you want to go ahead and start?
It's simple for me. The system failed Title V. I had the inspection through Stewart, and I had.
All right, do you want to come up here?
Sure.
So they can capture it on,
So I had Stewart come in and do the inspection, and the system failed. I retained ESS, Greg Saba's done a lot of work in town. He's also a surveyor as well as a septic engineer, and he ran the perk and found the perk hole that passed, and designed the plan according to maximum feasible compliance. And he's, surveyed everything. Based upon, this is all new to me, so I just wanted the system in so that the house could be ready for market. And he measured everything out, found the wetlands boundary, and we submitted the plan to Board of Health, ran it down to Conservation. Conservation came back with suggested alterations, made those, and that's where my involvement in this issue culminated.
okay?
Ms. Chairman,
Yeah.
can we read back the minutes, the draft minutes on what we talked about at our last meeting?
Okay, so this was from Rosemary, right?
No, this is just what the minutes say. Oh, okay,
Right,
I added.
because he wasn't here, right?
Right, I added
yeah.
what was discussed.
So it says, the owner was upset because he didn't want to file. DC asked him at the very least to have erosion controls, 5 feet from the 100-foot buffer. We talked about storing the
Spoils.
Spoils, yes. So a plan was submitted showing the erosion and spoil storage. We concluded that the system was outside of the buffer and they could proceed. So that's what we've done.
The installer said he's hauling all the backfill off the property, so there'll be no piles at all.
Yeah, I already talked to him.
Okay.
Do you have anything you wanna add to it?
No,
Okay.
that's pretty much it.
Okay, just
There's a
asking.
plan if you wanna look at it.
Could I see it?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, let's get that plan out.
System, where's the variable? It's right here.
Yep.
This is based upon which, I'm sorry. So this is the proposed, that's the 100 5-foot
Yes.
buffer zone. Okay.
Does anyone disagree on it?
60 to-
Yeah, it's soft.
Yeah, very short, okay. That's,
Okay, you can leave that here.
okay.
We were recently made aware that one of your neighbors or butters has an issue. So I just want to ask if any of them are here?
Yes.
Okay. So did you want to discuss what your issue is so that it can go into record?
Matter of fact, we got 4 plans.
Well,
Like
Carrie,
very
Carrie,
engineering plans. That shows difference.
Carrie, do we introduce ourselves? or-
Sure, yes,
Okay.
for the minutes.
Paul and Carrie Burkhauser.
Mhm.
We own the property down gradient of Mr. McIsaac here.
Okay,
The town knows it as basically parcel ID 17080A, and it's on Outlook Drive. I purchased the property back in '97, and in doing so, there's a seasonal brook that runs through my property, and I can show you that. And I retained a surveyor, well-known, and I'm not disputing the surveyor and his, ability or whatnot, but we do have a description, so, his name's Greg Bowden. And so we knew that, we had an issue to access our property because of this seasonal brook. So in basically buying the property and doing our due diligence, so this here is basically for everybody's orientation. This is Mr. McIsaac here. This is us here. This is that parcel I just referred to as our lot off of Outlook Drive. And this here is the seasonal stream that comes through the property. And so in doing our due diligence, we knew that somehow we had to cross this to basically get to the uplands. And when we were doing our due diligence in purchasing the property, we had Greg Bowden, and we have basically a document here of the services that we retained for him, and all the various folks that he had on his staff that helped develop this, and part of the topography, mapping of wetlands, flagging, flags, everything and so forth. Because we knew eventually we had to make that investment, we wanted to know what we were looking at to figure out what we were really buying. So, in looking at what's being presented here,
Excuse me, when was that done?
well, I have 3 plans. So this was done in 1997,
This one's
Okay, so-
95, actually.
or 95.
So
Yeah.
it's
95,
22 years
yep.
old?
And I have more, and we'll go through them all.
Yeah,
Okay.
try to keep it brief.
Okay,
because
I'll try,
we're-
okay, all right. So this is a plan in basically 95, thank you. And it shows basically the edge of wetlands here, and it says that it's on 156 being the topographic line. Now, this one here shows, I can't read upside down. Yeah, it shows, excuse me, it's, 156. And it basically follows the topography of that. This one here shows it basically being down at 52. 52 is all the way down here by the stream, okay? 56 is further basically upland, and actually it encroaches upon Mr. McIsaac's property. Basically, there's a little bit of wetland that comes into that.
yeah, we have that delineated here.
No, that's the buffer you have delineated there. This is the wetlands delineation. This
Okay.
is the buffer.
And where are you saying it lies?
And basically, it comes into here, 150, here's 56 right here.
Okay.
So part of that, so if you tie that together, okay. Then, moving further, we then basically filed a permit to do the wetland crossing. So we had to go through conservation people, all sorts of photographs and things like that. And so in that, we basically hired a different engineer, and also a company called Wetland Preservation, Inc. And they did a big study, and I have all that. They looked at the vegetation, they looked at the soil, they did all sorts of massive stuff, because we had to get a DEP number, and DEP was involved. And I had a register stuff. I had to basically then get final conditions of building and so forth. And so that's this plan here.
Do you have excuse me, so do you have a record of your filing with
Yes.
the Groveland
Oh,
Conservation
yeah, oh,
Commission
definitely.
on
They-
that?
They signed it all off. Oh, yes.
Do you have a
Oh,
copy
yeah,
of it?
yeah, yeah. You want to see a copy where you guys approved it? Jim
And-
Stewart
And
was,
again, when was that?
okay, this,
22 years ago?
no. This wasn't 22 years ago. Or maybe it was, who knows? This was done, again, I'd have to basically find the acceptance.
Do you want me to
Oh,
look at
right
it?
here, here's the acceptance. Here's the order of conditions, and the acceptance is at the very end. Okay, but again, nothing's changed out there. And here it is in a larger scale. Here's basically the crossing of the stream. And once again, they define everything, and they have all these points in here, and they're defining the edge of the wetlands.
This one's 98, just
Yeah.
for the record.
98, okay. Then, we were approached by an individual who said, we might be interested in this piece of property, and we're going to do a conceptual plan and a preliminary plan. And that was done in 2005. And this is a different engineer, and soil scientist and so forth. And so they did a conceptual plan, and this went in front of Camet Engineering and so forth, and the whole 9 yards. And this plan was produced. And this plan goes into also the taking of wetlands. And planning. So, this is basically part of the plan submitted. And here is, again, Rick Isaac's property. And here again is the delineation of the wetlands. Now, in my case, they basically, every flag that, or every whatever, you're supposed to put a flag, you're supposed to correlate it with a number. So if you go back to Mr. McIsaac's basically plan and what his engineer says. And right here, it says, number 6, all errors, omissions, and changes of condition at the site shall be brought to the attention of the engineer prior to performing the related work. It also says that the wetlands are located within 100 feet of the septic system, and I say that's not true, nor do any of my 3 plans over a period of time, the most recent being 2005. When I talked to the conservation people, I got a bunch of, Rosemary and, I'm sorry, your name? Mike. I met Mike on site, and I got some conflicting information. Rosemary told me that she saw him flag it. I didn't see no flags. She told me that within a day, flags can be removed, and they were blue. Mike told me they never put flags, and he told me that Rosemary never said that. But Mike wasn't in the office Monday night when I was talking to Rosemary.
Yeah.
I know,
The point is that the plan that Mr. McIsaac has for the septic system does not delineate the wetlands correctly, and that his septic system is within the 100 feet buffer. That's the point.
By how many feet?
Oh, by a lot.
So your
And
contention,
we're downhill, so.
You're-
And we're downhill. I'm the person who has all the wetlands. I'm the person who has that on my property. I want to basically, I don't want them to be affected. And that's why, I guess, people make rules and so forth.
so your contention is
So here's what
that, Mr. Burkhauser, your contention is that Mr. McIsaac's plan may be off as far as the distances
Oh,
and location
so
of the
let's see-
wetland,
let's
right?
see how-
Is that the bottom line? That's the bottom
Well,
line.
let's
How
talk
much is a
about.
lot? I'm curious.
Let's talk, here, right here. This is it. Okay, so if I take, okay, let's take Mr. McIsaac's plan here, okay? And what we said is, we said basically, what they're saying is 156. So I did just that. I took this. Basically, you can see where he's saying right now is delineation of the wetlands. And here's where there are the buffer, the 100-foot buffer, because this is the edge of the wetlands. They're saying it's down here. And now the buffer is really way back in here, so yes, quite a bit in the buffer zone. And this is all at a scale of 1 to 20, so if somebody would like a scale, I brought one.
Okay.
So Yeah, and then I read in basically the Board of Health bylaws.
Yeah, okay, so that's the bottom line, that's all we're gonna deal with tonight.
Okay.
We're not gonna deal with other things that others, because this is a problem, so we're gonna talk about this
Okay.
problem,
Okay,
okay? Thank you.
all right. Do you want me to provide you with anything? I
No,
mean, I-
not right now.
Okay, all right.
So I would suggest we talk to Mr. McIsaac and find out about, why there's a difference as far as.
This plan was obviously a recorded plan, so what we can do is have him compare the two plans and give us his explanation as to the differentiation
Well,
between
yeah,
the
we
two.
could do that.
Well, along with that recorded plan, it's also WPI, there's a whole study on soils and vegetations. I mean, it was quite extensive.
That's beyond the scope of what we're talking about today.
Oh, but that was to define where that wetlands was. That was part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask a specific question about the Town of Groveland Wetland Protection Bylaw and Regulations?
Yes.
Section 9.2, C. A and B list the setbacks from wetlands and 100-foot and 50-foot. This says the setback distance specified above shall not be required for renovation or replacement of septic systems constructed prior to the date these regulations are promulgated, provided such work has been approved by the Groveland Board of Health as required by law. And that language is extracted from 310 CMR, both 10.03 and 1058, section 6. But once again, they both reiterate the setback distance specified above shall not be required for the renovation or replacement of septic systems constructed prior to the effective date of 310 CMR 10.00, provided no alternative location is available on the lot, and such work has been approved by the local Board of Health or the department as required by law. So that system was put in 1956, when the house was built. That land that it's under is already landscaped, so we're not taking out any trees. It's sited on the only spot that occurred, and it's maximum feasible according to Title V. So within those constraints, I'd argue that in your own bylaws and in the state wetland preservation laws, that this installation is permitted. There is a debate about distances. But we're clearly, even if we were arguing within the 50-foot buffer, we're clearly outside that, even by those measurements. So, in terms of those laws, as I've read them, they can be construed as this system is allowed because the law envisioned people who'd had structures built and systems installed prior to the passing of regulations and didn't want to take the benefit of use away.
It's a typical grandfather clause.
Yeah.
Exactly,
We-
and there's,
we-
and because it's a stream, streams are also considered riverfront, and it's also listed
Sorry.
in the riverfront section as well.
Yeah,
It's a seasonal brook,
but we're not,
and
we are not going to take away somebody's, right to restore their septic system. I don't think that's what this is about at all. It's really only a matter of, how close is the septic system to the edge of the wetlands? That's really the only issue. So, I think we asked you, Mr. McIsaac, about this problem as far as, could your wetland scientist explain the difference?
He went through direct observation, just like you and Rosemary did when you were down
Yeah.
there, and found a similar border to the wetland. I don't know if putting in the culvert under that road changed the hydrology of the area and the drainage, but wetland borders do change. And I've looked up all the state maps from GIS, Mass DEP, the wetlands delineations, and all the interpretations of said maps that all seem to indicate that the edge of the wetlands as they're found are, at least according to this one, in the wetland change area map, 134 feet away from the border. So you would argue through the criterion of dissimilarity that there is no advantage to him coming and finding wetlands closer to the project. So I argue in terms of his, just earnestness, you know, he's been doing this since 1994. You guys have experience as well, doing direct observation, and he referred to all these maps as well. And I don't know if this becomes moot, given the bylaw and the state law.
This would be a much more compelling situation if you were building a new house.
Right.
And it's much less compelling that you're replacing a malfunctioning septic system.
Yeah.
Right,
Uh,
and we're not gonna
But,
ever
yeah.
turn down someone that has a septic system that's already installed. It's only really a
Right.
matter of what's the terms and conditions that we allow it. So I think that that's probably really the issue at hand. Mr. Burkhauser claims that the system is closer to the wetlands than what your scientist says. So it's really up to us to decide if that's the case, what are we gonna do about it?
Well, according to the bylaws, it says that when you get in dispute, you basically retain, you know, a third party to look at this, and you basically pass that cost on to, you know, the person who's requesting this. Also, I would contend that, you know, here's this piece of property, basically, 2/3 of it fall into it. There's still a third, basically, that sit outside of outside the buffer area.
That do not
Okay,
permit within the boundaries.
Who says so? Who?
Because we had pergolas.
Where did you have percolates?
We went, well,
I
listen,
appreciate your input,
Yeah.
but he's,
Okay.
doesn't really need to answer directly to you.
Okay, well, he made,
has
okay,
answered to us.
okay, so I don't need to
Thank
answer
you.
him either then.
Right,
So I'm
correctly.
just saying, so, let me speak, please. So I'm just saying
He
to the
was
board.
actually talking.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry if I interrupted you and cut you off.
so regardless.
Oh, wait.
And, I have an unforeseen circumstance now where I cannot occupy my house for an extended period of time, so I'm gonna need to reside there. So, in any event, that's the only place I have to go. So I'm gonna need a functioning septic system.
Can I say something from an interested townsperson? Is that available?
We'll get to you.
If
We're trying to
if he's
keep it
finished.
civil, yeah.
Sorry.
So regardless, I know I saw when they did the test that the line down to the dry well, and the dry well was all the way to the top. Does not drain, period, end of sentence. So it's a couple flushes away from overflow.
Initially, you were, saying that you didn't want to file. Did you end up filing with her?
Filing.
Or, any kind of, no, okay.
No,
So I
and,
think-
and that's probably,
I think that's
the
probably
bottom
the-
line is the
Right.
fact of whether or not, it's not that he can't put in the septic system, the fact is whether or not he is now going to have to file with the commission.
Yeah, that's, I would agree. I think really the only issue we have to decide tonight is, does he have to file or not, based upon this evidence, you know, is it compelling and,
I don't know, what does the bylaw indicate relative to filing? Where it
Bylaw-
says it's where it says.
The bylaw is not saying that you don't have to file.
Well,
What
that's what I
it's-
mean, that's what I was asking.
Right, it's not saying that. What it's saying is that you have a pre-existing lot with a house and a septic system. That you, if the circumstances warrant it, you are allowed to put a septic system closer than 50 feet. But you would have to file, and that's a local upgrade approval
Could we look at-
along with Conservation Commission filing.
Could we look at
Of
the
the
scale
NOI.
of that and see where 50 feet is out in that? Because I don't think it's within 50 feet.
No, I'm giving you an example.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if you have a pre-existing lot, you are allowed to put that septic system closer. What Title V is saying, you can't put it closer than 50 feet.
Right.
But if it's pre-existing and the system fails, then chances are, if that was the only place you had to put it, was the only place that perked, you would be allowed to put it closer.
Right.
Your system is probably gonna fall between 50 and 100 feet. So you're gonna have to file with the Conservation Commission, probably that is gonna be the bottom line. And that's just my opinion. It's up to the commissioners whether or not they think that that's something that's warranted.
Does that sound right? Yeah.
Given my need to occupy sooner rather than later, how quickly can we do that?
We could do an emergency order.
what do you think?
Well, it's outside of the seasonal time, so of course it would be an emergency order, have
Yeah.
to be.
Right, right. But, you know, based on this new evidence, are we convinced that the system is closer than 100 feet? Or is potentially closer that it needs a closer look at it?
Is it gonna be possible to see anything with the snow we've had recently, or is it
I
all
don't
pretty
know.
much covered up?
I don't know.
I don't, it's different at different elevations,
Very covered.
there's not,
There's some stuff
you can't see any
up there.
vegetation, it's difficult.
See trees.
Oh, okay, well, no, trees are indicators.
You have to
Um,
go by soil
Yeah, I was
test.
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah,
say,
so
really
that's-
nice. Hold that man sign, please.
Mr. Burkhauser, do you want to say something now, or?
Sure. Yeah, I just put this together. So, yeah, I understand his situation, and so if there's this emergency order, you know, I just wanna make sure that basically it doesn't impinge upon my property or change basically the environmental basic aspects of my property. Okay, cause I am down gradient, I have this, you know, on my property,
Sure.
and, you know, I'm concerned, and, you know, that it, you know, maintains the quality, you know, that it's in right now. And I believe that's why the state sets these rules, you know, to make sure that people basically abide by them, because somebody's saying this, and it's basically for the good of the environment. And so I saw this as a situation that wasn't quite, you know, things just didn't seem correct. When I talked about the flagging, and I talked about certain things, and, you know, whether or not people had access and so forth and so on, and Mr. McIsaac actually has a copy of Greg Boda's plan with the topography on it. So, you know, I understand things change, but they don't change that drastically, you know? And I would argue just the other, that, you know, that actually, you know, maybe instead of the wetlands decreasing, going down to the river, maybe it increased. I mean, there's,
Well, there are tons of examples where things change drastically in a very short amount of time. You put up a beaver dam, and all of a sudden, hundreds of acres are flooded that weren't flooded before.
part of my
You put in a
conditions-
culvert, when did the culvert go in?
Yeah, but-
Do we know when that was?
Well, I can tell you that the culvert that goes in, I have to basically maintain it, and I have to keep it flowing, and I
Okay.
do that.
Okay,
Okay,
so,
and I can tell you that.
but before
you
the
know, you can see-
culvert came in, there
You-
was,
You can see the channel. No, and this was after the culvert too. This here plan is well after. This here plan is 5, 6, 7 years after. You know, and they're out there doing it. You know, and the conservation people came out, you know, a few times to look at this. So, I would say that where it's been, where people flagged it, I'd say that's where it exists right now.
so, and we've been out, I obviously haven't been out, but,
Well, I've been out there and, you know, I don't think that that's correct, but.
which, the 1995 plans,
yeah,
or?
I don't think that's correct, but, and Rosemary was out there, and she doesn't think it's correct either, but, I guess
Could
we
have
just.
been correct then, but like you said, things can change.
Well,
Right.
it's correct 3 times. You know, I mean, 3 times, 3 different engineers
Well,
are
consistent
showing
anyway.
consistently that this is
May not
the
be correct,
condition.
but it's consistent.
Right.
So what's the, downstream of where the septic's going, or downslope of where the septic's going in, what's there?
A seasonal brook,
A intermittent stream,
yes.
Way down.
No, not way down.
right, and is there, do you have a dwelling there, or is it just property?
It's property, but it is basically buildable lot.
Buildable lot?
Yeah.
Okay, and so you're concerned about septic flow,
Into his property.
the 100
Yeah.
feet or so?
So,
Well,
What's
why
the
does
drop in
why does the-
elevation?
Why does the, so, the stream is at,
you can see by the Title V setback map.
the stream's at 151.
You can see where it runs through the Title V setback maps the state provides.
So we're dropping roughly 18 feet
Yeah, so,
in the course of 100 feet. Although most of that is in the first 20 or 30 feet.
When the property was built, they carved out a hill, and based upon when we were digging the pergolas, it looks like they just pushed the fill from the hill down to where the left side of the house is now, and then it drops off
And then, yeah, that,
precipitously.
yeah,
like
so
beyond
it was
the-
like
beyond the
this, and
hedge.
they made it like
Yeah,
this.
beyond the hedge.
Yep, yep. So, I guess the question is, where does the effluent from the septic tank, where is it likely to go?
So it's gonna go down.
Downhill.
But it should be-
Downhill, or is it gonna go?
It should be treated at that point.
Yeah,
It's not-
yeah, it's got 100 feet or so.
Of leach pads, I would imagine.
Well, it's got,
Their pits.
That's, okay.
yeah. I mean, that's a long way.
Well, it's a long way maybe to the stream.
And
but it's
I
not-
know-
it's not
and I know-
a long way to basically my property line.
What, you mean right on the line
If
here?
you look at where the septic is, yeah. and you
Right on the
look at-
line?
Yeah, and you're inside the 100-foot buffer,
So there's no-
according to, you know,
Well, I mean, that happens all the time. People are inside the
no
100-foot
rules.
buffer all the time.
Well, there's also no rules about,
And if he's got nowhere else to put it,
well, how, what's,
do you have to do
Rosemary,
something different? I don't know.
what's the rule about a leach field? How far away from the property line does it have to be?
It could go up to 5 feet.
Oh, okay, so then that's not an issue.
They would ask that it be 10. It would be another filing with the Board of Health if he was closer than
Yeah,
5 feet.
no, but I'm just saying that
That's the.
the concern that, your property is part of the leach field isn't really valid,
That's the,
unfortunately.
that's
Well,
what
no,
it
that's
creates.
setback.
Like,
That, is that hydrology, 5 feet, or is that just a setback?
that is to
zoning?
the lot line.
That's a zoning setback.
No,
No.
it's a Board of Health. It's a Title V setback for pre-existing homes with a failed septic system. And if that was the only place you had to put it, then they would allow it, but it would have to be a filing with the Board of Health.
Okay. Do you want me to make a motion?
Well, I don't know, I guess.
I can make a motion and then we
So-
can discuss it.
So you know what,
We can
I
Make a motion
say
to,
that,
Mike, before we make a motion, I'd like to hear from the gentleman,
Yes.
or other
Sure.
people that are here for speaking about
who's
things.
been very patiently waiting.
Yes.
The
you
commission
have to
has
tell us
noticed
your
that.
name and your
Oh, sure.
address.
Dave Wilson, 6 Hemlock Lane, in Groveland. Mine's really more from a practical standpoint. And I actually grew up not on King Street, not too far from the location. But I guess my own personal perspective, I haven't necessarily heard a compelling argument with older data that's being presented. There's been the individual who owns the house currently, his parents passed away. He made every effort to get an appropriate, experienced review of the property to make the decision. And I've heard a lot of comments from the Conservation Committee, and I would hope that the evidence that he's presented, particularly with the pre-existing home, well within what the boundaries that you just talked about from a Board of Health perspective, that the committee can see its way to allow Mr. Kaiser to move ahead with this Title V and get us that sold.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I got a question, so selling the house or occupying the
Well, I
house?
have to move in right now, and given the delays, it's probably not gonna sell.
Whatever decision he needs to make with
Right.
this house.
So, given the changes now and the.
So this document, I'm saying that your document is incorrect, because I think we really need to bring your engineers in here and ask them,
Was he addressed
you know, why?
by the committee?
Well, we're letting
I
him
think I'm still
finish
part of
his.
this.
You talked to my engineer on site, he's provided a bunch of material to Conservation Commission, which is available to you.
Yeah, and I
And
looked at it, yeah.
the reality is I have to occupy and I need to do something. And I have to occupy before Christmas, which means it's gonna take at least 5 days to get that system in.
Yeah.
So I need to, because
You
I
can't
cannot-
live in the house now, it's completely, failed system, right?
Right,
Okay.
2 flushes and it overflows. So I really need to,
Well, I'll make a motion that we allow the system to go forward. We don't need to ask anymore. I'm happy with the current plan as presented.
Did I say something?
When there's discussion.
Seconded?
I will second that, just to get things going.
Okay. Further
Got
discussion?
that, Julie?
Did you have
All
something?
right, discussion.
Oh, I thought you made a
Nope.
No,
motion.
she's writing it
Yes.
down.
I'm just
she's
writing
doing-
stuff down.
And so is Julie.
So discussion, so, I can speak, okay, thank you. Turn that back on. So what you folks are actually saying is that the plan that was submitted, that was prepared by his engineers, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly, is actual and factual, and that my past documents showing a different wetland, basically topography, it's just being dismissed. Is that what I'm understanding this to be? That, you know,
It's
that.
not being dismissed, but he's got one
But-
that's.
but his
22
plan-
years old,
but his
so-
plan-
Superseded.
Okay, but his plan isn't correct,
That's your
right?
According to
opinion.
you.
Right, that's my
Right.
opinion.
Yes.
Okay,
Let him finish.
all right, so you folks are saying that his is correct, even though
Superseded.
I superseded, even though I was told by Mike, right, that his engineers didn't go onto my property because he was there, right? Because they didn't get my permission, right, to go onto my property, and I says, you know, I never had you know, nobody asked me, and, you know, and they must have certain rights and so forth to do this. And so I'm bewildered, and then flags, and there are no flags, and, you know, this whole thing is, you know, just leads me to just sort of question quite a bit, that then, you know, brings me here in front of you folks. And I didn't just pull this out of the air. And I paid very reputable people and soil scientists and so forth. And I'm not sure, other than a plan, right, that his engineer drew, what else is behind it. Because behind everything else I have is I have basically studies of soils, I have studies of vegetation that basically do this, that say this is what it is. Prior to the culvert, during the culvert, and after the culvert.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
You've already stated that.
I'm unconvinced that his engineer has any reason to make a false plan. I don't see any benefit for him doing so for replacing a pre-existing septic system.
Well, he could lose his license if it's,
Correct.
Well,
if it's
that's
a false
what,
plan.
that's, yeah, and so, and on his plan, it says that if things aren't quite right, please bring it to the engineer's attention. Note number 6, right on the plan. And I think it has to be brought to his attention and ask him, hey,
And the board
What's
has
going on?
engaged with him.
We have,
oh, you have, and what has he said?
that's correct.
That his is correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Your
So,
discussion.
I don't think I'm not an engineer. I paid someone to do this. I don't know what the real discrepancy is. I proceeded in good faith, and I think that everybody who's looked at this stuff would argue that it's outside 50 feet and maybe inside 100 feet. And given the different bylaws and state laws, and the intent of those laws to not deprive anybody of benefited use of their property, I would argue, given the circumstances, that, you know, there's no fraudulent intent here. And that I'm not making any assertions other than the fact that I need a septic system put in.
Mhm.
And it's a septic system that meets Title V requirements. And it's, you know, because the Board of Health has looked at the plan, the septic installers looked at the plan, you guys have looked at the plan, and I need to get in there.
Okay.
And I,
And I, Madam
Yeah,
Chairperson, I would say, you know, in addition to that plan, our discussions with the wetland scientist, his coming back with his information, you know, we've been out there twice looking at it. By our observations, we agree with the current plan, and I see no purpose in, you know, making Mr. McIsaac file for something that is clearly outside the 100-foot buffer.
okay, all those in favor?
can I say one more thing?
Can we vote?
Um,
Yep, all
I-
those in favor?
I'm not certain discussions, though.
Yeah, I
I
don't
would
think so
like to
either.
end discussion
Okay.
soon,
I'd
but
like-
I'm not sure that it's
Go ahead.
over.
It's not, so, my understanding
It
too
is.
is.
But I do want some new information.
Okay, yes, so my understanding is that if you are within basically the buffer area, right, if you go to put it in there, then and I was told this by Rosemary, that you have to basically file for a public hearing. You know, like I've done for all this, you have to notify your butters and so forth and whatnot. And I guess that's when this discussion really would have, you know, commenced versus at the very end, you know, type of thing. And we could have,
Well, if we've determined that it's outside of our jurisdiction, then there doesn't need to be a hearing.
what's outside your jurisdiction?
If it's outside of the 100 feet, then there doesn't need to be a filing.
Based upon the plan, the thought is that we're outside the 100-foot.
Yep, we do this all the time. Plenty of times people are bringing plans before us, they don't need a permit in order to do it because they're outside of our jurisdiction.
Other
That
times,
was
they
the
say
case in
that they're
this.
outside of our jurisdiction, we take a look and say,
So
no,
you're wrong.
you're inside our jurisdiction. So if we determine that it's outside of the jurisdiction, then there's no need for filing. And I think that's pretty much what we've determined, right?
Yes,
Or I guess this vote will determine if we've determined.
correct. All those in favor?
Wait a minute, we have to end discussion, so
No.
are we formally in
He's the
Yes.
lawyer.
Okay,
This is not a hearing.
okay, fine, let's go.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
right.
those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Against? Abstain? I didn't hear you. Oh, okay. Everybody aye.
Thank you both for coming. And other neighbors. Do you want to go in order, or what do you
I
want to do?
have to go, well,
Well, we gotta
Do you want to see who
start
else
the
is
hearing.
here
Yeah.
regarding what?
is anybody here for the Haverhill landfill? Okay, come up front. I'm gonna make a motion to open the hearing for Haverhill landfill located on Yama Road at 7:48.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Hi, good evening. My name is Bruce Haskell. We're getting set up here with Langdon Environmental, and I work for the city of Haverhill and Aggregate
Thank you very
Industries,
much. Thank
who are the co-owners of the Haverhill landfill. And
Yep.
just for your
Excellent. Thank you.
general information, the Haverhill landfill is located on the Groveland line along Johnson Creek. Along Yema Road is the prior owner's road that goes into what was an old asphalt batch plant that was operated by Barden Trimont, who Aggregate Industries acquired in time, and that's along in here. The city and Aggregate are jointly under an administrative consent order with Mass DEP to cap and close the landfill and establish their schedules and things that have to come be permitted and everything else out there. I'm with Langdon Environmental. I'm the chief civil engineer. I'm here with Dwight Dunk of Epsilon Associates, who did the wetland delineation and prepared the ANRAD on our client's behalf. I'm just going to give a very brief overview of the site, just so you have an idea what we're doing here. This site is, as well as being the Haverhill landfill, Groveland also sent their solid waste there at one point. It is a federally listed Superfund site that is associated with the Groveland Wells Superfund site from back in the 1990s out there. There's been a significant amount of activity, and I can get into a lot of detail. This is in Haverhill, and the majority of the landfill is in Haverhill. Just to orient you, this is Groveland Road, which becomes Main Street when it crosses into Groveland over there. This is Johnson Creek runs here. Obviously, this is the Merrimack River out there. The batch plant was predominantly in Groveland over here, and some of it was in Haverhill over here. The landfill consists of two mounds, the southern mound, the northern mound, bisected by the old railroad right-of-way, which is now Mass Electric. The town's electric company substation is down here, and the old lumber yard is in here. So, it's on here. As part of the closure and the capping of the southern mound, which was being completed and approved by DEP, there was an area found on Lot 26. Lot 26 is a Haverhill lot, but we call it's trifecta 2, where there was buried incinerator ash from some source. We don't know where it came from, and that has been sort of incorporated and included as part of the landfill out here. So the parties aggregated in the city are currently responsible for constructing a cap on the northern mound. And obviously, we have been in front of the Haverhill Conservation Commission last week. There's a large, extensive wetland resource maps and things along the northern mound. Essentially, the northern mound is entirely in Haverhill and the wetland resources, but essentially, the prior operators of the landfill basically landfilled into the Merrimack River and Johnson Creek without any regard for wetlands regulations and the like. But to cap off this Lot 26 ash area, there's ash material, ash is considered a solid waste, that goes down into towards Johnson Creek, that is within Groveland there. So we are required, because of the amount of wetlands areas here, to file environmental impact report under the Mass Environmental Policy Act. And as part of that, we've been directed to get approval of the wetlands areas so that we can present how much impacts there will be from the capping and proposed mitigation out there. So this is, for you, this is the first stage of just getting approval of the line. We will be back when this capping happens to explain, what's gonna go on there, and what the process is, and what the mitigations are, and what cap is being required to be put there, and a whole myriad of things that will take a lot longer to do that. So with that, it's just a little bit of background. I'll let Dwight describe the wetland resource areas that we're asking for your concurrence on.
And as Bruce mentioned, my name is Dwight Dunk with Epsilon Associates. I'm a professional wetland scientist, plenty of other certifications as well. We've been working, Bruce and I have been working on this site for a long time. This is the third time that I've delineated, or my staff has delineated the wetland boundaries out here over the years. I believe there was an INRAD issued by the Groveland Conservation Commission about 7 years ago. I don't have a record of that in my files, however. We did have an expired ORAD from on the Haverhill side. So this is to re-establish the wetland boundaries. There's really been essentially no change over the years on these because of the hydrology is driven by the Merrimack River, which is pretty constant, and as well as Johnson Creek. As Bruce mentioned, this is the property, the corporate boundary between Haverhill and Groveland follows this line. A little bit crosses the creek, and then it basically follows the center line of the creek. So within our study area, we have land underwater for the creek, inland bank associated with the creek, which are basically flags A24 to A44 to A45. In between those two, that's the bank. Then there's this small wetland B area that's a pocket of bordering vegetated wetland that's in the town of Groveland. And then, as I mentioned, the bank on the west side is Haverhill, and on the east side is Groveland. We also have the 200-foot riverfront area that we've taken from the top of bank, and bordering land subject to flooding, which the FEMA 100-year floodplain defines as elevation 21 NABD. So those are the resource areas we're seeking to gain concurrence on in the town of Groveland, and Haverhill voted to approve the boundaries as shown for the areas in Haverhill. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Is this in the INRAD filing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's gonna be my question.
We're just
Yeah, it's
seeking,
in
we're just
the
seeking an order of resource area delineation, as Bruce mentioned, so that as the design goes forward, the areas of impact are well-defined and not open to question.
Yeah, the landfilling goes into these resource areas, so there's a mitigation, there's a series of things we have to do to address that, so we need to know how extensive they are or not.
It's definitely in riverfront area, the question
Floodplain.
that, is whether or not in Groveland it also goes into floodplain or bank, but definitely riverfront area.
Do we wanna look at it, or we?
Well, we usually do for the INRADs.
What would be our benefit for having a different delineation than the city of Haverhill?
But they're asking for a different part. The city of Haverhill only cares about Haverhill's delineation.
No, I know, but I'm just saying we're butting against it under the same project.
I don't think that the delineation in Groveland is also in Haverhill. It's not like the town border. I don't think. Is it, or?
No, I mean, basically the wetland line, if you will, stops at, the Haverhill approved stops at the Haverhill, line, and then there's another set of flags that come into Groveland.
Okay, that's
that get
what we're
picked up.
talking about.
Yeah,
That's why I just wanted to be
Yeah,
aware
no,
of
no.
what
It's
we're
a-
actually
Yeah,
outlining.
they
Okay.
can't approve, I mean, the agent went and looked at it because they're buffer zone for those wetlands that are in
Could go
Groveland.
into.
Come into Haverhill, so he was
Right.
comfortable with the delineation that he saw, you know, to reflect the buffer zones.
Reflect the buffer.
But he's
Okay.
not, obviously, he's not approving the line on
Right.
behalf of
For
the
us.
approver.
Okay,
And we flagged, we started with flag A1 and then it continued all along. But we're only showing on the plans A24 to 44. The surveyor did not pick up the flags further south because they're outside the study area. So
okay.
we're not asking for
Other plan, so.
an approval on flags A1 through 23, just those shown on the plan. And we are we're using one plan for both communities because the buffer zone, the riverfront area does extend into Haverhill
Yep.
from the boundaries that
Gotcha.
start in the town of Groveland.
Okay.
I'm free Saturday if you wanna go look Saturday.
So, this is Yama Road here, right?
Yes.
That's the, Yemmer Road, that's actually in the batch plan, so let me show you this. So Yemmer Road starts from here, it's Main
Yeah,
Street,
right.
comes in, and then it sort of stops at a gate
There's a gate
here.
there,
All right, there's that one house that the
Yeah.
Yemmer own, it stops here, and then Yemmer Road actually comes through the entire property out there. So it's shown there as Yemmer Road, but it really is, you know, it's really is the old road through the batch plant.
And this bend here is this bend here.
Right. So, yeah, so there's Yemma Road, but it's totally on a private property. There's access through Yemma Road to get to, because National Grid has a substation down here.
Yeah.
So there's, in Haverhill, so they have access rights to go through this property to access their property, which they own.
Okay.
The old railroad line that they use for transmission.
Do you want to do a site visit?
In keeping with our standard,
Yes.
standards, I think we really should. I don't like to do rubber stamp the in-rounds.
Saturday?
I can't.
My only, I do need to verify with my client that because they like to be there when people walk on their property. So I will just, if you set up a time and things, I will get back to you tomorrow morning, or your agent tomorrow morning about whether, you know, just to make sure. So I don't want to go out there because I don't think it's
Sure.
not gonna warm up any by Saturday, I don't think.
So tentatively 8:30 Saturday?
9.
9. Ooh.
Amen.
La-di-da.
There we go. Voice of reason on this
That's
board.
right.
Eggs Benedict ahead of time?
That'd be nice.
I'll make the holiday sauce.
What is that, 14, 15, 16, December
16.
16?
Do you wanna communicate with, to see if that's gonna be okay? or-
Yeah, let me just check, obviously they're not here tonight, so I'll just check
Yeah.
with them to make sure somebody's available or if they can go out there. If we do meet, we typically meet at the end of the gate, at the end of Yemma Road, there's
Yeah.
places to park
Yeah, we've
there.
been there before.
And then you can walk in through here and it's a fairly easy walk. You know, it is hard to get out down to the bottom of the creek out there, so, and, you know,
We'll
if
wear
you,
boots.
well, it's pretty steep, but again, we'll go wherever you want, we'll show you where it is.
We were there when they were taking out the last few buildings,
Yeah,
right?
right. I've
Yeah.
been out there.
Yeah.
Some pretty
a number of times.
Yeah, no, they-
interesting slopes.
No, they've done some demolition of different buildings. I know they've been in front of you. I think I was here one time on some of those projects. It's-
Nobody can talk to.
Is anyone else here on this, or no?
Is she gonna be
Okay.
here?
Yeah,
Saturday?
tomorrow's Thursday.
Oh,
So, yeah,
Thursday.
she won't be probably up at the.
So who do I
sidewalk.
communicate with?
I'll give you my email.
Okay.
You're all set.
Great.
Let me just give you a card in case something.
So do we open hearing?
We did open the hearing.
Yes, we did.
Close the hearing and continue.
Move to continue this hearing at the sidewalk? Is that the
No.
next, that's not part
The
of the,
next
okay.
meeting.
At the
What's the date for the next meeting?
January,
January 10th.
10th.
10th?
and let the record show I will not be here.
So you move to
Oh, yeah.
continue the hearing
Yes.
at 8 PM. Oh, do
I
you
can't
vote?
second
I-
my own,
I
I can't
second
second
my
my
own
own
Schedule
motions.
that is.
I'd love to.
No,
Next
we-
step is, okay, I
No,
just
this
wanna make
doesn't
sure.
affect our, this doesn't affect our, we're well within our schedule here. I mean, again, we're.
You
I'm go-
expected it
I've
to
moved
be-
ahead on the presumption that, you know, you're gonna look at it and
Yep, yep.
it'd be fine.
Okay,
but-
I just
but
wanna
I
make
shouldn't say
sure
that,
we're
but-
not
but I
unaware of something.
apologize
Oh,
I'm sorry to read your
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
All
All
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
right, great, thank you very much. We'll see, we'll hope to
Thank
see you on
you.
Saturday.
At 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. I remember that.
We won't be walking there.
Yeah.
I might.
Is 23 Wood Street here? Yes, okay.
Okay.
I will move to open the hearing for 23 Wood Street
Second.
at 8 o'clock. All those in favor?
Aye.
I don't have a stand.
You can just put it on a
Don't
chair,
worry
actually,
about it,
that
just
works
put it
pretty
on
well.
Yeah, use the chair.
Just put it on,
Put it this way or that way.
whatever we, that we can look at it,
Yeah,
and we can still
well,
see.
we-
Like, yeah,
we were
there you
supposed
go.
to collect green
Perfect.
cards from them.
They did.
They
They dropped
did?
them off.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. How about
right.
if you-
You got
Did they
green
drop off
cards?
cards?
Yes,
Okay.
he gave
Yeah.
them to me.
I was watching.
Good. I'm glad somebody's checking on me.
I was checking on that.
And you have green
Are
cards?
you guys on
or
this
did
here
you already
too,
check
or-
I have,
our-
No, I
We're
live,
neigh- we're
I live
neighbors.
across the street.
Oh,
Okay, but you're here to either talk on the
Take
subject.
a listen and.
Okay, good, okay.
Listen and learn.
Thank you for coming.
All right. So he just made a copy? Okay.
He's gonna drop them all. There's
All right.
quite a few headings in back.
Oh, okay.
But he did send them all out.
Do you have conflicting maps before we start? I'm sorry.
All right, let's be
It's only one
kind.
map, so I know.
name wrong on the plans.
I apologize.
Uh-oh.
Let's be kind.
That was just a joke for anyone who's watching.
My name's William Holt. I'm the land surveyor and the designer of the project. I'm here representing James Ogden, who's the owner of the property. He actually owns several properties out here. He owns the 44 acres, which is extends from Wood Street all the way down to Center Street. He bought that from the Websters a few years back. And he also bought 21 Wood Street, which is the log cabin that had the fire in it. It was a while back, and he's gonna renovate that, cleaning the site up, currently cleaning the site up right now. What he did is, we went back a couple weeks ago to the planning board, and we created a new lot by adding 17,000 square feet from the large parcel, 44 acres, to the parcel that was 21 Wood Street. Creating a new lot, 5-2, with 37,000 square feet, which conforms to the zoning, setbacks, and CBA. And to create a new lot with 175 feet of frontage to propose a new single-family dwelling. The wetlands were flagged by Julie Von Drack, who's a wetland scientist, and she flagged from the border boundary line of, it's actually Latham's tree farm, Christmas tree farm, and all the way over to the property, I think it's at, I think the number of the house. I think the number, it's the next house over, which is the new house that was built a few years back. So there's A1 to flag A20 on this plan.
So that's the blue line.
This blue line, yes.
Yep.
Yeah. She actually flagged both sides of the wetlands. There's a wetland line on this side of the intermittent stream that goes down through the larger parcel, which is off this property. This property does not have the intermittent stream or the wetlands, it just touches the corner of the property right there. And then we show the 100-foot buffer zone, which is the yellow highlighted line, the 35-foot no-build zone, which is the orange, and the 25-foot
minimum no cut, no disturb zone, which is the red highlighted line. Wood Street is up here.
The access road to the water tower is roughly
Oh, further down by about maybe 1,500 feet, so this direction.
in that
It's on the
direction.
other
Okay,
side,
all right, all
other side
right.
of the road
So
as
this
well.
is before the big dip there.
It's just before the big dip. Yep,
Okay.
this is wetlands right
Before the road goes up?
Yes.
Or down, depending on which way you're going.
Yeah. This is on the downhill side before it goes up.
Can you just turn that around so the butters can just take a quick look at it?
picture of it, so
I'm looking
at
Oh, okay.
It's also up on the TV screen if you have any questions.
as I'm not on the TV.
So shaded in gray is the paved roadway for Wood Street. And we're proposing a new house, which is also shaded in gray to represent the impervious area, the roof area, and which is outside the buffer zone. It's more than 100 feet, about 130, 140 feet away from the buffer zone, from the wetlands. The driveway is slightly shaded. Proposed paved driveway, garage under on that side with a little retaining wall up on the uphill side to retain the soil. And that's also outside the buffer zone. The green area here, the large green area, is the proposed septic system, which we had Alex Parker, who's the soil evaluator, works with me. Perked that back in May.
How close is that to the buffer? It's hard to tell.
The actual leach area
Yeah.
itself
I think yellow's the buffer.
is about 105 feet to the wetlands,
Okay, so
about
it's,
5 feet
yeah.
from the buffer,
Yeah.
or in the edge. But we're outside the buffer zone with septic. That's the proposed primary area. The reserve area will be right here. It's also outside the buffer zone. So the reserve area, when they go to build it, will be also outside the 100 feet. The tank is right behind the house, so that's also further away. And we're also proposing some infiltration, some roof runoff infiltration, which retain some of the water for stormwater management. We got a series of infiltrator units in the back, a series in the front, to have the roof gutter leaders down into those, so that we'll feed those from the roof. And we have a proposed infiltration trench along the downgrading side of the proposed drive to help treat and infiltrate some of the runoff from the driveway itself.
So what you're looking at is putting the contours between the 75.
What we have is grading for
Actually, some
the,
get
grading
into
for the
the
septic
75.
system, because we have to meet 10 feet out,
Yep,
break out.
yep, yep.
With a liner, we have to meet that, and then we have to slope it
Bring it
down 3 to
down.
1. And it's obviously a hill, so it's going downhill. So we're chasing that down the hill. It's about, 67 feet is what I got from the edge of the grading to the wetland boundary. So that's just inside the, between 50, the 25 and the 75-foot no-build zone. But the majority of the grading is outside the 75-foot no-build zone, but within 100 foot. It's 2,840 square feet total disturbance in the buffer zone for the grading.
So it's just that last little bit
Just over
that's,
right here.
that's inside.
Yeah, and we're showing proposed hay bales, or safe hay bales, erosion control from. this property
That's the black
property
line?
Yep.
Yeah,
The
okay.
black dash property line is 250 linear feet of hay bales, basically from property line on the side to the front property line. And all the grading's up, obviously up on the uphill side of that. We have town water proposed, there's town water in the street.
You've had no septic, huh?
Yeah, no sewer.
So this is a GNLI?
No, this is an RDA.
Oh, why?
That's what he filed.
It's only grading in the buffer zone, there's no structures in the buffer zone. It's grading for the completion of the septic. And it's very limited, 2,840 square feet, so that's the only thing in the buffer zone is limited grading.
Grading.
And obviously, we have to adhere to the seasonal restrictions for work in the buffer zone, so they won't be building the septic until April. We are proposing the 25-foot no disturb zone, and we're proposing 3 monuments on that line, which would be at the property line, in the middle, and then the property line again.
You mean markers?
Yes, 3 conservation markers along that line. Not showing the plan, but we'll.
Maybe.
We don't usually put them
think
that
so.
far away.
Yeah, 75
Um,
sounds good to us.
marker placements. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, make
But,
it a little easier.
It's more,
Case by case.
practice, and we have been pushing, we're not there yet, but we have been pushing to do 100 feet, because it's just, anything less than that, it's
It's a guess.
unclear to people
Right.
Right.
what it really means. So,
But then, if it's like in the middle of a
Grass,
lawn or something.
yeah.
We tend to move it to a more natural, border area.
You look like you're having steep pitch down below the
Yeah.
septic. And what is below that, or what are you gonna be doing down below that?
I think
Like from
that's out there, doesn't
the
it?
orange line, yeah, right there.
This is the tree line right here.
Okay.
Over here.
That's what I
Actually,
want.
That
my
tends to be
markers.
more where we
well,
place them,
or
yeah.
how about the 100-foot? Why
Right,
can't they
before
be
the
at the,
slope.
For a new house,
Right,
I'd say why, we've been doing this with all those new houses
Right.
on
Yep.
Fairway, on
Yeah.
Homestead Lane. So, Bill, can they be at the 100-foot buffer? Is there any reason why they couldn't be?
Well, in here, we're gonna be doing work in the buffer zone, so.
yeah, but that's put in after.
Right,
After you're
the
all
markers
done
go,
working.
markers
After
go at the
you've
end of it
seeded,
all.
yeah.
That's like the last thing
We can
that
put them in,
happens.
yeah, I mean, that's just to warn people that they're in the
Correct.
buffer.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Not to
That's all
prohibit
it
future
is,
work,
yeah.
if they wanna do
Right.
future work, like a pool or something down in here, they can come back.
They can come
Yes.
back and do it,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
just
fine.
in case some people are
So
doing.
it's just a
Yeah.
It's just
mark.
it's just a reminder.
It's not meant to be offensive, they're meant, they actually look quite nice, they're
Oh, no,
more
I-
just
I-
to make people aware of what they are.
I know exactly. Okay, that's not a problem, I don't think it's an issue, because really, this is the buffer zone back here, so we're anticipating the backyard to be here.
Yeah, so it
If you're at
is-
25,
buffer.
it's just two, like,
Asking
Yeah,
for
if it's starting to drop off there, they're not gonna
Yeah.
be playing soccer or anything like it.
No. That's pretty good, it's 3-1 right
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
so it's.
do a gun range.
Big,
So what did you have?
Again,
I didn't actually have them on there.
I'm joking.
I was proposing, but we can.
I'm joking.
Yeah, we can-
You are
I
good
had
to
them.
me.
you know this is on film.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
It's, if you look on the,
How
if you come
many
up
of
and
these
look,
do we
it's what we're
want?
talking about is the
Three?
I
yellow
like
line.
three.
Yeah,
So you want,
one on each end.
That's where we're
and then one
proposing
in
putting the
middle
markers.
Somewhere.
Correct.
Like-
What's that? They're granite markers that basically say this is where the, you have to look out for the wetlands. You tend to space them
I would
along
say
in
right
places
before
so
it
that
goes
no
down,
people
Mike.
don't encroach and then start doing, putting in a pool or whatever. And what he's saying is he wanted them at 25 feet from the wetlands, and that's just
There too.
way too close. So,
Mike, you
Yeah.
can mark them on there too, that's our plan.
shouldn't have a problem with that.
okay, and
That makes
I
sense.
have a
understand
sense of
what you're saying.
humor, I'm not, I'm just joking around.
Oh, boy.
I just have a question, just.
Sure, go. That's why you're here.
This is the leach bed right here?
Yep.
Okay, and this is the grade that drops down.
He's proposing to grade below that to push it down and make
Does
it much steeper.
Would it leach out
Nope.
at that grade?
What it is a setback requirement off the edge of leach field. You have to be so far out at a certain grade, and then you can drop down at 3-1. And it's designed to keep the septic going down, not out.
Okay.
It's all scientifically figured out by someone smarter than me.
Yeah. Where are you located, just out of curiosity?
Directly across the street, I'm right here on Basil.
Okay.
Basil and Prospect Lane.
Obviously, the pitch for all the septic looks like it's headed in the
Yeah,
other
I
direction
wasn't
from you.
concerned with that.
Yeah.
Just, my question was, because I know it's all wetland back here.
Right.
I don't know
Yep.
How the leach would affect that wetland, that's
Okay.
all. But if you're saying it's designed to. go
Well, hopefully
straight
by
down.
the time it gets there, it's
Yeah, plus
it's
it's going to-
unrecognizable
Going to 100 feet of
of
separation.
filtration.
Now, you represent the owner that owns the log house as well? You
Yes.
said they're refurnishing?
Exactly. I think his intentions are to redo it, yeah. Clean it up and resell it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Cooperative work.
It'd be good to be
Oh, yeah,
consistent.
he's already started. I don't know.
That way all the
Still ways to
time.
go.
You won't notice anything until
Yes.
spring when everything starts.
And you won't be back here in front of us, because that's not our jurisdiction, that's so far away from our area that it's not impacting us. So it'll be, if he's gonna be from a different board.
But I haven't been down the street, I mean.
I have, yeah.
lived there before, I didn't collect it.
Ton of plans.
Just put it nicely, collected, yeah. Well, at any rate,
No.
He's being nice.
try.
These folks have any other questions?
Does anybody have any questions? No? Anybody up here have any questions?
Where are you located?
Fred?
I'm part of the Latham family,
Oh, okay, gotcha. So, he's the heavy hitter in the family, right? Okay.
Sales a hot chocolate.
So, I'll make a motion that we approve the, RDA, the GRDA, as no impact, but request, 3 markers at the 100-foot buffer as agreed upon on the plan.
We want a pre-construction or anything?
Did you place them on the plan, or did
Yeah.
this, okay. I
No,
can't see.
actually,
They're the
we
X's.
removed-
Okay, gotcha, okay.
I'll put symbols on and link
It'll
it.
be, it's the standard. This is a GRDA, it's like a standard letter
Boilerplate.
permit.
Okay, all right.
I'll second that. It's too slow. All those in favor?
Out of practice.
Aye.
And the conditions require that hay bales and inspection prior.
Yes, yes.
Just wanna make sure.
Pretty much as the plan is.
Yeah.
No problem.
The only difference is we move the markers, so that's why.
And I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I didn't even get it out yet, at 8:15.
Great.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So we just need to do a letter permit on this, and you can sign it.
Mhm.
And do the DEP RDA, did he file a DEP RDA too? Probably, right?
No, I don't think he did. I think he
No.
just filed with, oh, no, he did, yeah.
Okay,
right.
so, the standard one with that is there's no impact,
Right,
right? And then do a letter for Heather to sign.
Okay.
And set, put a pre-construction meeting in there so they're kept aware of what's going on. And note the markers as agreed, that standard thing that we'll say in a permit letter.
Boy, and they get our Good Citizen Award of the Week here for
Yeah.
great chairs.
I
Yeah.
know. And they had to sit through all that.
Yep, well, no, that was interesting. Sit back. Move to adjourn.
On a side note, thank you for your direction on that, because you obviously have much more experience on these things than we do, so I appreciate that.
I defer to you.
Don't know. That was
No, but it's,
terrible.
yeah,
Anyway,
Yeah,
enough said.
yes.
okay.
Johnson's Pond, you wanna do that?
Yes, as long as we're doing. So, I would make a motion that we continue the hearing until,
Don't you have to open it first?
till
January
January
10th.
10th.
Actually,
So
we do
let
have to
me ma-
open, move to open discussion.
It's a continuation, so you have to open it.
Okay,
Move to open discussion,
Second?
second, at 8.
8:19.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
And go.
all right. Thank you.
Move to,
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. So, before I make the motion, I'll just tell you an update. I contacted Steve Erickson at Norse Environmental, who's working for us on this, and he is supposedly helping us to correct the filing, because the filing is gonna require more than we originally thought, a lot more, and his explanation to it goes on for 3 pages, so that just gives you an idea of all the stuff that is gonna be required. So anyway, I did get an email from him yesterday that he is working on it. It sounds like it kinda went to his back burner, so I wanna keep on him, because I'm hoping that we'll have the permit, somewhere around April or May, so that we can proceed with the weed removal this year. 2018, before fiscal year 2018 ends. So I make a motion that we continue the hearing until January 10th and close the and continue it at 8:20.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
You wanna stay here till 10? Okay.
So,
Next.
do we have a follow-up on the fairways markers? Did you go
Yes.
out there? Are they installed?
They're installed,
On all the lots?
yes.
Excellent.
On all of them, all 5 markers are in.
Thank you.
In the, did he get the plate on them yet?
Not, he was supposed to send me an email, so you know what, I'll email him and just double check on that. Last I heard, they were ordered, but he told me that he'd let me know when he was putting them in.
He said on November 28th, he said he ordered them and they're being installed by next Tuesday, which would have been December 2nd.
Right, and I have not heard from him,
Okay.
so I'll send him an email and just say, are they in, so I can double check on that.
Alright,
Okay,
are we pushing the minutes
yeah, we're
approval
pushing
off?
the minutes.
Firing range follow-up.
150 Summit Street, what do you got for me? Oh,
Rosemary.
I have a letter stating that they would do everything that they were supposed to do. Of course, that has not happened. I had no timetable. I sent it and asked them for a timetable of when this would occur, and I have not gotten
who was the
a
one that kept emailing back?
The chief.
Oh, all right.
It was the chief.
So that's who you're waiting for a timetable from? Okay,
I asked, and he referred it to Bob Arcalian,
right,
and
And
that
you
was the
haven't
last
heard
I
anything?
heard. Right.
okay. We need an update,
Yeah.
timetable. How about 929, 931 Salem Street? Did they get their turtle?
We haven't gotten a plan yet. Have you heard anything from Hal, Mike?
No.
Is that body?
Yes. It was going back and forth, and then
I'm
they
gonna-
just silent.
I'm
He's not
gonna
working.
email him, I'll
Right.
email him
He's not
and
allowed
find
to.
out
No, I
what's
know, but
going
he
on.
knows it, and he's holding off until, I just had my car worked on, that's all. Here's-
Oh,
Here's how things
Just
get
put in
done in
rotors
Groveland.
yesterday, so.
He won't fix your car until,
No, he's well aware of what he can't do, and he's.
yeah,
he's
no, they
complying.
haven't
So
been
no
doing
plan yet.
anything
Yeah.
out there.
yeah.
But,
Alright.
I'll email,
Hal?
Hal, yeah. He responded to me, so, you know, maybe he will.
Yeah.
I'll copy you.
Where you at now?
Down the street,
Oh,
first right?
oh, okay.
Lower Center Street.
Lower Center Street, the culvert.
Oh,
Did you
okay.
have a
Yes.
solution?
You bet me I
Yes,
couldn't find
well,
another job.
as
What's
we,
that?
as
Bet me I
the
couldn't find another job
commission
one day.
approved,
He's gotta be tough.
moving forward with the beaver fence,
He's making
that was
Crystal Palace.
installed, and,
He's losing many of friends.
it is working pretty good. I've gotta do a follow-up with, Mike Callahan, the guy who installs the thing, just to talk to him a little bit more about what advantages there might be to putting in the full beaver deceiver pipe that goes over the fence. I'm not sure that we really need it, but I gotta talk to him about it. And I want to have us ask Rosemary to check the culvert every week
Okay,
and report, she can report it to me about the level, because what happens is,
are you controlling the water?
yeah,
Oh, all right,
yeah. So what I am doing is not there's no stops in the Washington Street flow control.
okay,
The highway department took them out a couple months ago. We need to put them back, but we don't need to put them back yet. I wanna put them back, I would say maybe in March. But in the meantime, I wanna check the other side to make sure that the leaves aren't backing up the water too high. They did, I went out there with Jim Manganiello, we pulled all the leaves out and it evened the level out again, but it can back up higher over the fence, and I don't think we wanna let that happen. So if Rosemary's checking it, lets me know, either she and, or either I or she and I can go out there and clean it up. It's not that hard to do. And
Okay.
then I will follow up with Mike Callahan on the beaver thing and report that at the next meeting. And also, one of the culverts needs to be cleaned out. And I have a solution for that, but I don't know if I wanna get in the icy waters, to do it.
Yeah.
Now that, it might not be possible to do it right now,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Would
But
you
I-
have, would you have much buildup in the winter time? I mean, like, there's no,
no.
okay.
I
I'm
don't
just
know what
curious.
effect the ice is gonna do to it, though.
Yeah.
That's what I wanna see.
When you have like
so.
ice out on it, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense.
So anyway,
All right.
but things are going along pretty good with that, and Jim Manganiello seems to be pretty happy, so.
Excellent. 121 Seven Star. What's the dumpster placement and
Okay.
relation to the buffer? Is that you? No, that's her.
Well, it appears that Mike and I went out there, actually. I
Yes.
went out there and they had placed the dumpster in the buffer zone, along with a whole bunch of material that was right up against the silt fence. They were asked to mark where the 100-foot buffer was, and it wasn't marked. So asked them to move the dumpster out of the buffer zone, clean up all the trash that was all around and had been blowing into the wetlands. And they moved the dumpster. They did move a lot of the trash, construction debris that was up against the silt fence. But I couldn't see if anything else was moved because then it snowed, so
Right.
but I did not see anything that was marked to substantiate where the 100-foot buffer was.
I
It was
spoke.
one of the things that they were asked to do when they came to ask for the seasonal restriction waiver.
Hmm.
I spoke to Dina DeHulu after our site visit. I think it was the same day.
Yeah, it was,
later on,
yeah.
right? And so she said, she'd get the dumpster moved and the trash picked up and back in the dumpster. And I told her that we'd like some better marking for the 100-foot buffer, so we kinda can just walk up and know where it is. So, I don't know if that's been done yet.
Like trees, is there trees, like you can flag them? or-
No, it's in the
Stakes?
no, it's,
Stakes?
Stakes.
well, yeah, that's what I suggested, stakes with maybe, the
You
yellow
don't
tape.
need a lot of
or
them, right?
something.
Just
No,
a
right,
handful of them?
right.
Even
Yeah.
I said, even if they just put two, one at one end and one at the other, just so you can eyeball it
Yeah,
to see
right.
where it is,
Right,
so
something, because right
Yeah.
now there's nothing,
there's
there was nothing
You
when we
can't
went
tell
out
where
there.
it is, so.
So, Rosemary can probably check that out on Monday.
They're usually pretty responsive.
Yeah, they apologized and said, I think Steve DeHulu had some operation or something, so,
Anyway, they're usually pretty responsive.
yeah.
All right.
So the Groveland Community Trail was talking about turtle mitigation. Mike,
Yeah,
Mike wants to talk about that.
I don't really wanna talk
No.
about it because,
They were,
I don't know what we're gonna do about it.
I just wanted to bring them up to speed as far as like what's happening.
Yeah,
Is them like us?
Yeah,
well,
them, my peeps.
they.
Your minions.
The the company that's doing the rail trail for the town of Groveland filed with Natural Heritage, because they're in turtle habitat, so they had to file. So, Natural Heritage came back and said it's a potential taking, and they're gonna have to do all this mitigation in order to
Produce
have it
new
be
habitat.
allowed. Yeah,
Yeah.
and,
For how long of a trail is this issue?
I think there are a couple of areas. One is Blanding's Turtle, which I think is down by the electric substation. I don't know that much about that one. And I think that one probably can be avoided. But the other harder one is a wood turtle habitat, which is along the stretch behind Whitestone. that
Yeah, by Center, from
extends-
Center on, yeah,
yeah,
okay.
from Center down to
yeah.
Main Street, that portion. And So there's some things that they're gonna propose, like putting a fencing up and narrowing the trail to 8 feet. But
I don't know
they,
if- Can they do that? Because they have to have those big trucks that go in through there, that's the whole idea.
yeah, I know, I don't know. Not sure. I
Yeah.
don't know. But the other thing that they want them to do is to provide a mitigation area, not unlike, if you remember the one that we approved, that DFW did behind Federal Way.
Yep.
Remember we went up, we had that, Pat Huckery, I think, came in
I
and
just know that was, they
told
wanted
us
a
about it.
certain width.
So, they think they're gonna want one of those areas and somewhere, where, well, you know, it would be, most likely places somewhere on the former busing property. Because that's within the habitat, but it's not reserved,
No,
a turtle, you know, mitigation area.
it's not designated.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's where I think natural heritage would like it to be. But the town has to approve that. And I don't know, you know, so eventually we're gonna have to probably go to the selectmen and argue that a portion of the turtle mitigation area has to be in there. And they're gonna
I
have to
think I
give up
heard Fred
control.
volunteer just now.
Fred?
Yeah.
He'll
For the
argue
selectmen?
before
Yeah.
the selectmen.
Sure. They'll
I
like
heard,
me.
oh, boy.
He wants to
Is that,
do it.
is that area still flooding out from the runoff from Whitestone? Remember how there used to be, it would, the water coming off of Whitestone would run
On the
along.
Whitestone
On the
side?
Whitestone side, and then there was that hunting camp that nobody knew who owned it anymore.
Yeah.
And there was like a raised area that was blocking it, and then it was
Yeah.
washing out the,
Yeah, yeah.
is
the-
that still happening? I
I
haven't been
don't
back there in
think,
years.
no, it hasn't, because it hasn't been that wet back there,
Yeah,
you know. But if it happened once, you know, eventually it'll
right,
probably
right.
happen again.
Because what that really needs is a culvert there,
Yeah,
where that trail to the non-existent hunting camp is,
yeah,
or no longer existent.
right. I
And
don't know
maybe
what,
that should be worked into the mitigation plan.
I don't know what their plans are, you know, the owners of that property.
Well, nobody
I'm
knows
not-
who owns it, wasn't
Well,
that the
no,
issue?
I did know who owned it, but I don't know if they still own it.
Oh,
It
I
was,
thought we didn't know who owned it.
No, well, I don't know, maybe now they don't, I don't know. But anyway, so we're gonna probably have to argue the case of why that's the best place for wood turtle mitigation. I mean, it'd be great if we could put it, we can't really put it anywhere within
range.
our controlled areas. I don't believe we can, because they're already, well, the Mattingly property is already mitigating the wood turtles from the solar field installation. Could we use the Angelini property? Maybe, but I know that Natural Heritage isn't crazy about that, cause that's way on the other side, and I'm not even sure how much of that is wood turtle habitat anyway. But, you know, so if we could do it over there, I think that would be another alternative. So it'll have to either be one place or the other.
Next.
Yeah, I have to look up my email because I didn't bring my copy, sorry,
Oh,
for the budget.
Budget.
oh, the budget. I didn't know that.
Okay, so one of the things we have to figure out is what goals we want to present forward for next year. Does anybody have some suggestions? I do, but I would like to hear what your suggestions are.
Goals.
Goals, anything you guys want to accomplish next year?
Well,
I know.
do you have our plan
I
from
do.
last year? What were our goals last year, and did we accomplish them?
And if not, then just write them down again.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Jaded.
Right?
I'll second that one.
Yeah.
Next.
Our
Copy what
goals.
was on the budget from last year.
So,
Try again.
that's our mission.
What I remember from the budget is we were asking for another
So we were looking to,
$1,400
Yeah, we
or
got that.
$1,489.
well, that's gonna stay the same, but I was
Okay.
wondering about the rest
Yeah,
of the
the
stuff. Unless you
goals, yeah.
want more money, I could ask for more.
Yeah.
Last year, our goals were improve services to the public,
Check.
which we did. Hello, Rosemary. Enhance neighborhoods through improvements to conservation properties.
Check.
Planting of
well,
turtles and all that stuff.
We can do that one again,
Okay,
Well,
well,
that's
we're all,
ongoing.
that's all is,
That's
yeah.
ongoing.
so we can keep it on there.
Enhance recreational opportunities on underused natural resource areas.
That's an ongoing.
That's
one.
ongoing.
Yep.
Increase community development by better publicizing conservation and open space properties, which we haven't done yet with all those trails.
Yeah,
What did Rosemary say?
Ongoing.
Put it on.
Ongoing, okay.
Yep.
And those are our goals for last
Those
year.
are great goals.
oh, okay.
Excellent.
I'd like to add one, to standardize the identification of the wetlands delineation, but
How about become more consistent in our processes?
Oh, yeah, I like that one.
Okay,
Including seasonal restrictions and,
granite markers.
Marker placement.
marker placements.
yeah, we don't have to be that specific, do we?
No,
Oh, in
but-
the paragraph.
Yeah, you could just.
Overall, I'd
As
like
an
to be more
example, those two
consistent.
areas, you can decide if you want to be that specific or not, but it wouldn't hurt. I'd like to have one be that we, complete the cleanup of Johnson's
I knew you were
Pond
gonna say that.
and,
The continuation.
continue to
that's
regulate the levels and, complete the, management plan. I saw that, I got an email from Camet and Denise that our management plan should be starting. She had to do the contract for him, so he should be starting it in January, I suspect.
Okay.
Do we have something from last year where we did more joint projects, or we're aiming to do more joint projects with other organizations within the town? Like, for example, I was thinking about the Boy Scouts and, creating projects that, utilize our resources to.
We did not have that as a goal, however, I think we just had that as our maybe mission statement.
So they
Yeah.
hide
Yeah.
it.
Let me check our mission statement.
I'm okay with it being in a mission statement as opposed to a goal, but it's just, I think that that's important, so that people know
It's
that we're
more
not
of a
just
goal than
the.
a mission statement,
I
actually.
don't see it in there either.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just think it's something that, we don't want people to view us as a, the resistance to anything, but instead be just an integral
We're
part of.
facilitators.
Correct.
I think if we become more maybe efficient in our process, we can also be transparent. And I would suggest that maybe Rosemary, when she goes to site visits, she keeps a log.
Yep.
And then we can
There'll be
delineate that log.
fewer disagreements about what has
Exactly.
been said, he said, she said.
And then like at every meeting, she can, send out copies, so that everybody's
Yeah,
knowing what she's
yeah,
doing.
no,
'cause-
that's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're adding more to your plate.
Thank you.
You're
I just
welcome.
added something. Do you want me to read it back? I'll tell you later.
All right.
Okay.
You can read you can watch on
I
TV.
can watch, no, I can't watch
Oh.
on TV. I don't
That's right, you don't live here.
You
That's
can,
okay, you can YouTube it.
you
That's
can
what I do.
watch on YouTube.
I have satellite. Any conservation agent updates from you, other than the ones that we've already heard?
The only other thing I have to tell you is that we will be having a filing for 441 Main Street. It's after the fact because of the DEP stepped in, so they have to file with DEP, so they're also filing with us.
Okay.
Which one's that?
441 Main?
441 Main.
Work that
He's
was done
doing the
along
work
the,
along
Main Street.
along Johnson Creek.
Johnson's Creek that we allowed, we already allowed it, but,
He has an
Oh,
enforcement
there's
order
that
with
file.
DEP
DEP.
disagreed with us.
Oh,
So they have
Oh.
submitted a plan to show what they're going to be doing to reestablish the bank along Johnson Creek right there.
got it.
So they're coming to the next meeting.
They'll be at the next meeting, yeah.
Agenda item.
What was the other one that was, it could be the same one that you said you didn't file in time, you're gonna have to go on the next meeting?
That was 441.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I can just take that right out of my brain then.
Rosemary, I have this is, why don't you hang on to this? He should be filing a, certificate of compliance on this old open order, and the
How
cost.
old is that?
Oh, goes back to 1993, I think. So that's $450.
Okay,
Can I make a joke?
no jokes.
Mute your microphone.
I want to hear the
Does
joke.
that,
I think we can
Does
table
anybody
that
have-
until
Table
after.
that joke.
No,
Oh,
yeah,
so here's the,
oh, that's the budget from last
Yeah,
year.
right.
Oh, I'll take that. I actually didn't get this.
Really?
What I got was just the overage, I think.
oh,
I don't know.
I'll email you everything else again.
Okay. I didn't get any electronic, actual
All right.
files from
Oh.
her or from
Oh,
you, so. that-
oh, okay, I'll email you everything else.
Any old business items?
Yes, Terry, any old business items? Do you have anything?
I don't.
No? Anybody?
Nope.
Any new business items that you'd like to bring up for next
Commissioner's
meeting?
time, yes, yes, I have one.
Okay.
So, I.
Did you hear him?
What?
No.
He will be silenced. Taking his mic away. Go ahead.
So, I think I mentioned this last time about Sewell Street. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, yeah. And, so here is the Sewell Street reclamation, plan. I've got a plan and this document. And I noticed that it's going to be on the selectmen's agenda to talk with the, proponent of this in January, or I think it's at the next meeting, January 8th. So unfortunately, I would have liked to have talked about it tonight, but we didn't, I didn't get it on the agenda. So, just briefly, I met with, oh yeah, yeah.
It was last meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
So anyway, they had a site review plan, and can we quickly take a look at this?
Yes.
Give you
There
the,
will be no discussion.
yeah, no discussion, no decision.
You can look.
So anyway,
Don't discuss.
here's the plan, here's Sewell Street. Really, these things kinda end about here, these are paper roads.
Imaginary.
And,
Oh, okay.
and, so the quarry cliffs are right here. This whole thing, as you can see, it goes up, 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 up. And you're up about 150 feet or so down to a pit that's right there. So what they're proposing to do is to fill this in. They're gonna truck all this urban fill in and fill it in.
That worked so well last time.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, fill it in, then he's proposing to put this 30,000 square feet
What is the
building,
purpose of that?
light industrial park.
Okay.
So, I went to the, site review plan, and, we didn't get enough convincing information that we could figure out why they're doing this, or why they're doing it this way, why they have to fill it in. We asked the planning board, Jim Freer and I asked that instead of filling it in that much, they come back with a plan that doesn't require quite so much filling, that they take some from the top of the cliffs and kind of put it into where they're filling in and kind of, so they're not
Level it all out.
taking as much, fill in, if any. So I don't know. So that could be what's in here. This is dated October 16th, though, and I doubt that this took into account, because I think this is that, and I don't think there's any difference, but
They should probably be notified you're not the chairman anymore.
why, it says that? Oh, yeah. Well, this was, yeah.
So it's-
Oh, no, it was.
Just a few weeks,
Yeah.
well, a couple of months ago.
I try to, I don't want anybody to think I'm the chairman.
You escaped, you should.
I know, that's what I mean. I want to make sure they know that.
Anyway, they should know that, is what I'm suggesting.
It's a quarry, I can't
We
imagine them
still-
pushing the
we
top
still
of a
get
quarry off.
Jim
It's gotta be all
Stewart,
rock.
Jim Stewart chairman, mail for some organization.
Yeah.
So,
What is, let me see what that
Yeah.
says.
Yeah, but
They want a middle name.
so I
this is
would,
probably already what he presented at the last meeting we had, correct?
I don't know, I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know if he changed things or not, but I think we need to decide, I think we better, can we put this on the agenda for next time? Because we need.
Yes.
Certainly can.
We
Yes,
need
we
to
can.
decide what we're doing about their open order of conditions that they have about the pond out there. Cause, they did,
Oh.
we extended that for a year, so it's still open, and it certainly, something needs to be done out there, regardless of what they do with this.
Right.
So it's Sewell Street you want on the
Yeah.
agenda?
Yeah.
That's it, just
The
call it Sewell
Sewell Street, the open orders of condition, and their new reclamation project.
Street. What do you think?
I think I should get a
Move to
tea
adjourn.
during my time.
Maybe somebody else has something.
Nah. Pretty sure.
You think?
Is that all for future agenda items? Anybody else?
Oh, can we,
See?
I like 15.
Is this on commissioners' time?
can we
It
talk
is.
about,
Oh,
can we talk about,
I would like tea and crumpet served during commissioners' time.
can we talk about, the, seasonal restriction waivers? Can we put that on the agenda for next time?
Yes.
Oh, just kind of
What would
review.
you,
Yeah, well, or
Right,
what are we
right,
gonna
yeah,
do
no.
about it, start it, cause I think it's
I think you're right about that, and especially when we're talking about costs of these things,
Seasonal
and being,
restriction
being more
waivers.
consistent about the
Yeah,
costs of
yeah,
them.
yeah.
I agree with that. So,
We need to
Not that I like longer
start the
meetings.
discussion on it. And, winter tends to be, January, February is slow, so.
Ish.
I filled that agenda right up. So,
We got
Sounds
plenty
like a plan
to
to
talk.
me.
can I move that we move to 15? Item 15,
What's that on
Yeah.
15?
German.
go ahead.
I thought I already made a motion.
Oh, I'll
He was
second
still
it.
I
talking.
didn't hear it.
I'm cleaning up.
He appears to be motioning right now.
Actions speak louder than words.
As he's going.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What are we
You're
on?
seconded.
Adjourning.
Second it.
You're on the tertiary, or you're the wrap-up. So,
It just gives me a little how do you do at the end of the minutes.
are we done?
And that's all she wrote.
Give
All right.
that to Julie.
Turned off, I want to hear your joke.